Have you ever wondered why some of the most successful companies in history have suddenly collapsed, while others have continued to thrive for decades? The downfall of iconic companies aren't relevant for you? Think again. For business owners, it's the most valuable lessons you can learn to stay ahead of the game. For those of you working at a company, learn if your company has a cutting edge to avoid risks of layoffs and stay competitive in the job market. It's a stressful time for all of us, but look no further than The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton M. Christensen. In this eye-opening book, you'll discover the secrets to successfully managing disruptive technologies and strategic decision-making, all while avoiding the mistakes that have plagued even the most successful companies. This book is valuable to readers who are interested in innovation, entrepreneurship, and strategic management. By reading this book, readers will gain a deeper understanding of the factors that contribute to success or failure in the face of disruptive technological change. The book is divided into 3 parts. In this video, we will explore the insights discussed in each parts of the book in detail. Part 1 of The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton M. Christensen explores the concept of disruptive innovation and why great companies can fail despite having established success in their industries. Christensen argues that companies often focus too much on sustaining innovations, which improve existing products or services and satisfy the demands of their current customers, while neglecting the potential of disruptive innovations, which create new markets and appeal to different customers. Chapter 1, How Can Great Firms Fail?, sets the stage for the book by examining the historical examples of successful companies that ultimately failed, such as RCA and Xerox. Christensen notes that these companies were once industry leaders, but their failure to adapt to disruptive technologies and changing market demands led to their downfall. He argues that the very factors that made these companies successful, namely, their focus on listening to customers and investing in improving their existing products, also made them vulnerable to disruption. Chapter 2, The Forces That Cause the Disruption of Firms, delves deeper into the nature of disruptive technologies and the market conditions that allow them to gain traction. Christensen identifies 3 key factors that contribute to disruption: technological enablers, which make new products or services possible; business models, which determine how those products or services are delivered to customers; and value networks, which dictate how money flows through an industry. Disruptive innovations typically arise when these 3 factors come together in a way that creates a new, cheaper, or more convenient way of satisfying customer needs. Chapter 3, The Principles of Disruptive Technologies, lays out the principles that define disruptive technologies and how they differ from sustaining technologies. Disruptive technologies are typically simpler, cheaper, and more convenient than existing technologies, and they tend to appeal to customers who are underserved by established players in the industry. Christensen notes that while established companies may initially ignore or dismiss disruptive technologies, these technologies can eventually overtake and disrupt the entire industry. Overall, Part 1 of The Innovator's Dilemma serves as a foundation for understanding why great companies can fail and how disruptive technologies can upend established industries. Christensen's argument is compelling, and he provides numerous historical examples to illustrate his points. He also emphasizes the importance of recognizing the potential of disruptive technologies and investing in them, even if they may not be immediately profitable or aligned with the company's existing business model. One of the key takeaways from Part 1 is the idea that companies need to balance their focus on sustaining innovations with their exploration of disruptive innovations. While sustaining innovations are important for maintaining a company's competitive edge, they can also create a myopic focus on short-term gains and prevent companies from recognizing and pursuing disruptive opportunities. By contrast, investing in disruptive technologies may require a longer-term outlook and a willingness to take risks, but it can also lead to new growth opportunities and greater long-term success. Another important point that Christensen makes in Part 1 is the importance of understanding the dynamics of value networks in an industry. Disruptive technologies often arise when new entrants find ways to deliver value to customers more efficiently than established players, and they can disrupt the flow of money in the industry. Companies that are able to anticipate and adapt to these changes in value networks are more likely to succeed in the long run. Overall, Part 1 of The Innovator's Dilemma provides a thorough and insightful introduction to the concept of disruptive innovation and the reasons why great companies can fail. By understanding these principles, companies can better position themselves to identify and pursue disruptive opportunities, rather than being caught off guard by them. Part 2 of The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton M. Christensen focuses on the management strategies that companies can employ to successfully navigate disruptive technological change. Christensen argues that companies need to create separate organizational units to manage disruptive innovations, rather than relying on their existing organizational structures, which are typically designed to support sustaining innovations. Chapter 4. Give responsibility for disruptive technologies to organizations whose customers need them, examines the importance of creating separate organizational units to manage disruptive innovations. Christensen notes that disruptive innovations often arise in markets that are underserved by existing players, and that these innovations require different skills and resources than sustaining innovations. By creating separate units to manage disruptive technologies, companies can ensure that these innovations receive the attention and resources they need to succeed. Chapter 5. Match the size of the organization to the size of the market, explores the importance of matching the size of the organization to the size of the market it is serving. Christensen notes that companies that are too large for their markets may be unable to respond quickly to disruptive technologies, while companies that are too small may lack the resources to compete effectively. He argues that companies need to be vigilant about right-sizing their organizations and adapting to changes in their markets. Chapter 6, Discovering New and Emerging Markets, discusses the strategies that companies can use to identify and enter new and emerging markets. Christensen notes that disruptive technologies often create new markets that are distinct from the existing market, and that companies need to be able to identify these new markets and understand the needs of the customers within them. He provides several examples of companies that successfully entered new markets, such as Intel's entry into the microprocessor market. Chapter 7, Strategies for Entering and Competing in Emerging Markets, examines the strategies that companies can use to enter and compete in emerging markets. Christensen notes that companies need to be willing to adopt new business models and value propositions in order to succeed in emerging markets. He also emphasizes the importance of building relationships with key customers and partners in the market. Overall, Part 2 of The Innovator's Dilemma provides practical guidance for companies that are looking to manage disruptive technological change. Christensen's emphasis on creating separate organizational units to manage disruptive innovations is particularly insightful, as it acknowledges the fundamental differences between sustaining and disruptive innovations and the organizational structures needed to support them. Additionally, his emphasis on right-sizing the organization and adapting to changes in the market is a useful reminder that companies need to be flexible and responsive in order to succeed in the long run. One of the key takeaways from Part 2 is the importance of customer focus in managing disruptive technological change. Disruptive innovations often arise in markets that are underserved by existing players, and companies that are able to identify and understand the needs of these customers are more likely to succeed. Additionally, companies that are willing to adopt new business models and value propositions in order to meet the needs of these customers are more likely to thrive in emerging markets. Another important point that Christensen makes in Part 2 is the need for companies to build strong relationships with key customers and partners in emerging markets. Disruptive technologies often create new ecosystems that are distinct from the existing market, and companies that are able to build relationships with key players in these ecosystems are more likely to succeed. By building these relationships and understanding the dynamics of the emerging market, companies can position themselves for long-term success. Overall, Part 2 of The Innovator's Dilemma provides practical insights and strategies for companies that are looking to manage disruptive technological change. By creating separate organizational units to manage disruptive innovations, right-sizing the organization, and focusing on the needs of customers and partners, companies can position themselves to successfully navigate the challenges and opportunities of disruptive technological change. Part 3 of The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton M. Christensen focuses on the strategic decisions that companies need to make when facing disruptive technological change. Christensen argues that companies need to be willing to attack their own business models when necessary, and also to recognize when it is time to retreat from a market that is no longer viable. Chapter 8, Managing Disruptive Technological Change, a Framework, provides an overarching framework for managing disruptive technological change. Christensen notes that disruptive innovations often create new markets that are distinct from the existing market, and that companies need to be able to identify and understand the needs of the customers within these markets. He also emphasizes the importance of being willing to disrupt one's own business model in order to stay ahead of disruptive technologies. Chapter 9. How to appraise your organization's capabilities and disabilities, examines the capabilities and disabilities that companies need to consider when facing disruptive technological change. Christensen notes that companies that are successful in sustaining innovations may not have the capabilities needed to succeed in disruptive innovations, and that companies need to be able to assess their own strengths and weaknesses in order to make informed strategic decisions. Chapter 10. The Rules of Innovation for Established Firms, provides a set of rules for established firms that are looking to innovate. Christensen notes that companies need to be willing to disrupt their own business models, and that they also need to be willing to cannibalize their own products in order to stay ahead of disruptive technologies. He also emphasizes the importance of being willing to experiment with new business models and value propositions. Chapter 11. Give disruptive technologies enough resources to succeed, explores the resources that companies need to allocate to disruptive technologies in order to ensure their success. Christensen notes that disruptive technologies often require significant resources in order to succeed, and that companies need to be willing to allocate these resources even if it means diverting resources away from sustaining innovations. He also emphasizes the importance of creating a separate organizational unit to manage disruptive technologies, and of setting clear performance metrics for these units. Chapter 12. How to Avoid Disruptive Failures, provides guidance for companies that are looking to avoid the pitfalls of disruptive failures. Christensen notes that companies need to be willing to retreat from a market that is no longer viable, and that they also need to be willing to fail quickly and inexpensively in order to learn from their mistakes. He also emphasizes the importance of building a culture of innovation within the organization. Overall, Part 3 of the Innovator's Dilemma provides valuable insights and guidance for companies that are looking to manage disruptive technological change. Christensen's emphasis on being willing to disrupt one's own business model and to cannibalize one's own products is particularly insightful, as it acknowledges the need for companies to be proactive in responding to disruptive technologies. Additionally, his emphasis on allocating resources to disruptive technologies and creating separate organizational units to manage them is a useful reminder that companies need to be willing to invest in the long-term success of these technologies. One of the key takeaways from Part 3 is the importance of being willing to experiment and take risks when facing disruptive technological change. Companies that are too focused on short-term results and maintaining the status quo are more likely to fall behind in the long run. By being willing to disrupt their own business models and experiment with new value propositions, companies can position themselves for long-term success. Another important point that Christensen makes in Part 3 is the need for companies to build a culture of innovation within the organization. Disruptive technologies often require significant changes in the way that companies operate, and companies that are able to build a culture of innovation are more likely to be able to adapt to these changes successfully. By fostering a culture of experimentation and risk-taking, companies can create an environment where disruptive innovation is at its heart of the company. If you enjoyed this video, and want to learn more, you can find a link to the full book, as well as the Kindle and audiobook versions, in the description below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel to continue your journey on the shortcut to self-improvement.